And so what you've done is you've taken experienced, seasoned teachers and have asked them to go out there and try to find positions in a very, and compromise them in many ways. And so for me, that again empowers the principal, but we used to average, we used to say, no matter, you could have high end, low end, and you didn't have to worry about if I had, Mrs. Jones here, who was a fabulous teacher, but she was on a very high salary, and Mrs. Smith here came along and brand new. It didn't matter. I had the benefit of teaching with a mentor and the benefit of two individuals. Now, because of the budgets the way they are, you've got to worry about who you hire. So there are all these issues of within the school that are maybe business models. But the truth of the matter, even in the business model, in the business world, I'm not so sure that these models are cohesive and are effective. So I guess it's to answer your question, I do have concerns, which is why I left, and I still have concerns. I try to be fair and say that obviously I'm somebody who took a position and left, so my responses are always going to be tainted by the fact that I took a position and I left. And so I want to give you my response with that in mind.
And Julie?
I'm not sure if this would go under anything that you can answer, but you mentioned coming to the country and not knowing any English. Having gone through the school system, I had to learn English too, going in, but I was immersed at the time with English. It wasn't a bilingual education. You just went to school and you had to learn. With the bilingual education nowadays, at least a few years ago, I believe that the kids kept going through bilingual education and some kids never came out speaking the English language. What is the status on that, and are the schools even thinking of bringing languages, since so many other countries have English and about 4 other languages? We can't get English straight, but just to bring in a language to these school kids.
Well, I know that one of the programs that has been researched is the dual language program. Another program, like you, I did not speak English, but I'll tell you what I had that I'm sure you did too. If you had literacy in your primary language, you were able to transfer that literacy, which is why children from other countries, if they have literacy in their primary language, it's not that difficult because they're able to read, and they have what I call the framework. And so even in some of the words, you may look at the words because you have the literacy. You're able to then pretty much either whether it's sounding it out or looking at it, or you understand the notion of getting meaning from the context, because that's all part of literacy. So having literacy in your primary language, whether it's Chinese, it could be Russian, it could be, really supports the transition. And so what happens is that a lot of the children who have language in their primary go through what's called second language acquisition because they hold a primary literacy and they're able to transfer. With a lot of countries where children do not go to school, they're coming with no schooling and no language, no literacy in a primary language. My suggestion is that those children should be immersed, because by the time you teach them literacy in the primary, it takes a long time. I mean, the truth of the matter is that it takes, all the research shows it takes about 7 years to really, truly acquire language. And when I'm talking at the highest level, meaning understanding a joke. I mean, that's probably, if you ever see people and you use sarcasm or a joke, and they're sitting there and they understand, they're very good, they understand, but that's at the highest level because that has all kinds of implication, cultural, and I remember sitting and somebody saying, oh my God, I'm schwitzing, and I'm saying, okay, I know that's it, I think that's an English word, and I'm not sure. And so for me, it was sort of, I knew something was happening, because I had literacy, so I knew, right, I'm something. So, the truth of the matter is that if you have literacy, to answer your question, if you have literacy in the primary, it is so much easier. I mean, the Russian kids, all kids who come with, and even from other countries where they speak Spanish, you know, you can come from, let's say, Costa Rica, and if you've been in school, and you have literacy, the transition is a lot easier. It's the children who, two things, the children who do not have schooling, but do not have the literacy, and who support, whether it's at home or in the neighborhood, is because you continue, you don't have the role models. One of the criticisms of bilingual education had to do with the fact that if you have, which by the way was interesting, because if the kids all spoke Spanish, they were not bilingual. They were monolingual Spanish, but we never corrected that one. But if the children didn't have models to speak with and practice, in essence, what did they do? They spoke Spanish all the time, or they spoke whatever the language was. If it was Italian, they spoke Italian all the time. So you don't get to practice, and you don't get to experiment and correct, like another kid would say to you, no, you know, you lie down, you know, versus I laid, you know, and you and I know you go through the modeling, and so that's, that, by the way, and that is an issue that they are dealing with at the region.
Good, because they need to discontinue it. They need to immerse the kids, because even children who were born here and they're stuck in the so-called bilingual education, they're going all through high school not really learning the English language, taking bilingual throughout.
I'm going to share something.
And becoming second-class citizens.
Yes.
I was at the, last Friday, I was on a panel. They had in Albany, Somos el Futuro. You were there? You weren't at my panel.
No, sorry.
And this was one of the issues that emerged from the panel, in terms of some people being concerned about the models that we're using to transition our children.